Today's story is kind of the poster child for why low or no barrier housing simply doesn't work. Listen to this headline. Idiot. White Portland man allegedly yelled racial slurs before torching his own apartment complex with a Molotov cocktail, causing an elderly woman to jump from the balcony, then claimed the victims were his black friends. We've got an utter nut job. And what I want you to pay attention to is how all of these news stories don't recognize that this guy is a whack job, an utter nut job, and everybody's kind of like, well, he's pretty racist. No, he's mentally ill. He needs to be in an institution. Let's get into it. Here we go. Let's watch a video. I want you guys to kind of see what the fire dealio here looks like. It's brutal.
A morning, just before 6 a.m., a massive fire ignites a 3-story apartment complex on East Burnside.
It was so scary.
Carolyn Reyes woke to the faint smell of smoke and someone yelling fire. She grabbed her 5-year-old son and tried to escape through the front door.
I opened the door and it was all flames. So I closed the door and thought for a second. I was like, okay, plan B. We're going to go to the farthest bedroom and hopefully firefighters will arrive.
She broke out a screen window, told her son to lean out for air. Smoke was already billowing through the crack under the door.
I was already contemplating tying my clothes together to lower my child down, and then I was going to jump.
Firefighters rescued both of them.
Scary.
Starting that fire, 40-year-old Sean Swartz was arrested Friday night. He's charged with 6 counts of first-degree arson and other crimes. Investigators say Swartz used gasoline to start a fire in his first-floor unit. More than a dozen people lost their homes, including Reyes.
I think the biggest one is probably anger because, first of all, like us 5 families in the front, we all could have died, and my son and I were so close to dying.
The damage, leaving her without a home or a car, and her son with
complete teardown.
Physically okay. Emotionally, he's going around telling everybody that he almost died.
That's fair.
Portland fire investigators detained Swartz earlier in the day, questioned him, but then released him, arresting him just a couple of hours later. Portland Fire also says one of the victims that jumped out of the windows to escape the flames is still in the hospital.
Shocker.
Yeah, you can certainly understand the anger there. Devin Haskins downtown. Thanks, Devin.
All right, the newscaster. What in the F is that all about? Well, you can understand the anger. Anger? Bunch of people nearly died. Nobody did. This is beyond, I'm a little upset. I'm just a scooch upset because some knucklehead decided who's crazy and on drugs. That guy's a meth dude, right? He's a meth dude. Sets the entire complex on fire. The problem is you've got crazy people on drugs, crazy people not necessarily on drugs throughout Portland, throughout Seattle, throughout LA. And they tend to do this stuff because oftentimes there is no barrier to housing. We need to get you into a place. This is going to be great. What could go wrong? And then they light a complex on fire, and everybody just ignores the fact that the guy's an utter nut job. Oregon man is behind bars after he yelled racial slurs before setting his apartment building ablaze, leaving people injured and several others homeless. Sane people not on whacked out drugs, don't light their own apartment complex on fire, do they? Sean Swartz, unfortunate first name, now faces 6 counts of first-degree arson, reckless endangering, and first-degree criminal mischief for the 4-alarm fire at the apartment complex in Portland, Oregon on July 11th. 40-year-old is accused of setting fire to his unit, which rapidly spread to other parts of the complex, triggering drastic evacuation measures for his neighbors, many of whom had to jump from the apartments on the higher floors to escape the intense flames. One neighbor told KATU that the blaze even forced an elderly woman to jump from her balcony. An 82-year-old lady who jumped off that balcony over there tried to make it out. It's an insane story, Michael Jones said. I think we'll see some footage, or we'll see him talking about that. 82-year-old lady My mom's about to be, I think, 85 next year. I wouldn't want my mom hopping off a balcony because some mother effer lit it on fire. No, I wouldn't want my dad's younger than that. I wouldn't want my dad hopping off a balcony. I don't want to jump off a balcony. You want to talk about ankle breaker? And she got pretty injured. Shocker. 82-year-old does a swan dive because she needs to live. And and gets injured. Yeah. I mean, she's lucky she didn't just completely die. Not exactly flexible at 82, right? No. Your knees don't take that. Well, I'm 20 feet up. I'm jumping off, and I hope this goes well. 2 people were hospitalized with severe injuries. Yep, including third-degree burns, a fractured vertebrae, and an ankle injury. That's fortunate. That's all that happened. The fire severely damaged 6 of the building's 19 apartments, making them uninhabitable and displacing at least 15 people. Jones said that Schwartz was even returned to the scene of the crime, making bizarre statements. The guy had the nerve to come back here in his words. Oh, these are my black friends. The guy's nut job. He's an utter nut job. On drugs. Maybe not on drugs. We don't know. Jones said of his African-American neighbors who were not displaced, then police ended up coming to get him. Wonder why they went there the first time and then came back. They must have done an interview, got information, ran it up the flagpole to somebody, and they said, yep, go arrest that bastard. Jones simply called it an idiot moment. Okay, all right. So the people, and Jones is an African-American gentleman himself, and he's like, all right, this guy had an idiot moment. It's not an idiot moment. You've got mentally ill people living in low barrier or no barrier housing throughout everywhere now, but more importantly, in big blue liberal cities, because they've said, drugs are great. Let's everybody get on the drug train by decriminalizing drugs and basically handing out. Guaranteed, this guy is not working, the guy who torched his own place. He gets money from the Oregon government, and it looks like most of those folks were no barrier, low barrier also that are in that complex. I'd be very shocked if they were not. So you've got this concept of, well, the guy just had an idiot moment. No, he's got a mind that is snapped or is on drugs or a combination. And that is how you end up tossing a Molotov cocktail into your own apartment complex and then going, well, my black friend's there. What? You're doing what? Why? Schwartz initially claimed that he was asleep when the fire started, but witness accounts tell a different story. No, he was walking around and he was doing this number with a bottle filled with gasoline, and it eventually torched the building. One of his neighbors said he heard Schwartz screaming and yelling racial slurs inside his apartment. Schwartz told investigators that he was arguing on the phone with his girlfriend. There you go. All right. But when authorities contacted the woman, she said she had not spoken to Schwartz in 2 years. Kind of reminds you of, in The Shining. Typing away on the typewriter and telling Shelley Long that he's super busy. He's typing up his novel. He's just going for it. And then he's not. He's just literally writing red rum. Yeah, just some, the guy's having a mental break. He's just absolutely having a mental break. He's talking to his girlfriend on the phone. Oh, yeah, I haven't talked to him in 2 years. Who's he talking to? Good question, right? Then he told police he was on the phone with someone, typing some kind of words. No, you're crazy. You're nuts. You need to be in a mental institution. And the end result is a whole bunch of people lose their house and nobody says a damn thing about the crazy nut job. He was also admitted to leaving a gas can near his couch, but he claimed it was not leaking. Okay? So the accelerant throughout your apartment unit, how did that get there? Which was gasoline? I don't know. I was just talking to my girlfriend. No, I mean someone. However, according to court documents cited by KGW, fire investigators found evidence of gasoline throughout Schwartz's apartment, including burn patterns consistent with an ignitable liquid being poured from the front door to the back bedroom. So, you got the accelerant in there and tossed a Molotov cocktail. And this is mostly conjecture because we really don't have a lot on this story. Because most people don't want to talk about this. Oh, yeah. Then why is a crazy Looney Tune running around lighting his own apartment on fire? Because we're allowing him to? Oh, okay. All right. Why isn't he in a mental institution? Well, because we don't do that. Especially in big blue liberal cities. We don't do that. Just, don't let him run around. It's good. It's all good. What could go wrong? In court, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. His attorney questioned the severity of some of the charges his client faces. If you're an attorney and you're representing this dude, you got to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? He questioned the severity, almost killed how many people, displaced how many people from their lives. They ain't going back to that. That complex is going to have to be demolished, rebuilt. What a nightmare. Because some guy who's whacked just allowed to live wherever. Apartment complex over there. Looks good. I understand that the court has already found this to be a violent felony, the defense attorney said. I understand this fire was very dangerous to other people. Now we're justifying why his actions were okay. But in terms of it, I think the nexus, and that Mr. Schwartz obviously is charged with starting this fire, but in terms of the nexus of having some type of intent for a threat to serious physical injury, I didn't see evidence of a serious physical injury from the brief discovery I received in the affidavit. He lit an effing complex on fire with people in it. Friday morning, 5:53 a.m. Now, how many of those people are going to be up and at 'em? All right, I'm ready to roll. How many of those people are wearing clothes? Right? I mean, they're in bed asleep, right? They're in their jammies or less. They're not ready to be booking it out the door, trying to avoid being burned alive in their own home by an utter nut job. Schwartz is still in jail without bond. The investigation into the fire is ongoing. Red Cross is helping. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Tonight, 2 people are still recovering from serious injuries, including one a neighbor says is an 82-year-old woman who had to jump from a balcony. A day after flames tore through this apartment complex, we went back to see what is left. Footsteps lined the front of Michael Jones's unit after...
It's an 82-year-old lady who jumped off that balcony over there to try to make it out. And these are her prints where she
Wow.
out to the curb.
The woman...
So she was clear that she was able to jump and then able to walk afterwards. That is damn impressive, right? That's just, I mean, you hop down, you get older folks. If you don't have older folks in your life or you don't have parents that are that old, you don't think much of a 10-foot drop. All right, we can make that. I feel like Spider-Man today. But the older you get and you have older parents, you realize that, a fall can be the end of somebody's life. They break their hip, they go into surgery, they don't come out. That happens so often. So to have a story like this where people are literally, trying to fly off balconies because the alternative is becoming a crispy pile of ashes in their own apartment.
Woman was one of 8 people rescued from the 3-story burning building. A cat and 4 dogs were also rescued. The blaze prompted a 4-alarm fire response. Portland Fire says 2 people were taken to the hospital. One had 3rd-degree burns and multiple fractures.
It's an insane story.
Maybe just as
it is.
Are details Jones is sharing about the suspect who was also a resident.
The guy had the nerve to come back here and his words. There were a lot of African-American people, the neighbors out here, and he was like, oh, these are all my black friends, He says that verbatim, like he didn't just displace all of these people. And then the police ended up coming to get him.
The fire was so intense, it melted these 3 cars here. And
wow.
Crews got to work pretty quickly, setting up this fence here, building a makeshift stairwell, and boarding up those windows. David Richards had just woken up.
And I was like in here, I was like screaming, a fire, fire, fire. I hear breaking glass. I walk out to my patio and then I can see the whole scene just fire and smoke just billowing from the units in front of me.
Richards escaped safely, and believe it or not, he thinks this could have been much worse.
It was a really, really scary scene. Yeah. And thankfully my kids weren't here.
Lucky nobody died. I mean, that's just straight up. Lucky nobody died. Otherwise, there'd be a way bigger spotlight on this story.
Because it would have been a totally different scenario.
In the meantime, multiple families are still trying to figure out what to do next.
And it's all because of, an idiot moment, is what I like to call. People have idiot moments, and that was one of them.
I get it. The guy's trying to come up with something, but that's not an idiot moment. That is something else. The whole story just points to the guy's Looney Tunes. The guy is Looney Tunes. The guy needs to be in an institution somewhere, medicated. Truly, right? He's just making stuff up. He's not mentally well. Man threw Molotov cocktail starting fire that destroyed East Portland apartment complex. I don't need these to read a story, do I? No, not really. Witnesses say Daniel Domingo was getting ready for the day in his second floor apartment when he noticed smoke wafting up past the front window. When he realized the building was on fire, he and his family quickly gathered what they could, including their dog. By the time they got outside, they realized they'd have to jump from the terrace. Even Domingo's mother, who's approaching her 70s, leapt from the second floor. I was just thinking about survival, Domingo at 30 said. My mom's the eldest. She shouldn't even have to deal with any of this. All right. So jumping from second floor, so the probably 10-foot drop, depending on, elevation of the grade level. Don't know what that was like. But if it was flat on the main floor and they're up, 10 foot, probably, maybe 9, got really low ceiling, something like that. But a big drop. I wouldn't want to do it. No, thank you. I like having not broken bones. I was just thinking about survival. My mom's the eldest, shouldn't have to deal with that. Multiple witnesses said the Oregonian Live that a man who lived in the East Portland complex threw a Molotov cocktail at the building Friday morning. He was up all night doing just a plethora of drugs. He was whacked out of his mind. Or if that's not the case, because I am just merely surmising, because what are you doing lighting your complex on fire before 6 a.m. if you haven't been absolutely rolling throughout the night? And you just get down, you're just all worked up because the drugs, just... I think lighting this place on fire would be good, and then I'll throw out some racial slurs. And police and fire officials have not commented on the fire's cause. Arson, first-degree arson. One person has been taken into custody. Police have not publicly identified the person. Fire was reported 5:53 a.m. 40 units responded. Sean Doherty, 41, lived in an apartment in the back of the building. He said he heard people arguing and then the sound of broken glass before he heard people yelling that a fire had started. Okay, how about that arguing? He heard people arguing. Was that, I bet you that was just a guy yelling to himself, just yelling. He's talking on the phone to his girlfriend, or he wasn't. Know what I mean? Just too many pieces of this puzzle that make absolutely no sense. So another major storyline in Portland is the one in which ICE had been continually, just night after night after night, assaulted by Trantifa in Portland. And then one of the local residents, the woman that we saw with the cane, she's badass. She basically said, stop all the noise, because Antifa was creating some incredibly loud noise in front of the ICE facility in downtown Portland, and people living in the area couldn't sleep. She launched a lawsuit, and the city came by and basically cleaned up the Antifa encampment like that. Lawsuit, major news story. I covered it, and all of a sudden, Portland? Oh, yeah. They clean out Antifa. They clean out all the stuff that they had for doing their nightly launch on the ICE facility, who is trying to clean up America and deport criminal illegals. And then you've got citizenry and elected officials in big blue cities, big blue counties, big blue states, interfering with law enforcement's deportation of criminal illegal aliens. How does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense at all. But my point to the story is, should some citizens of Portland sue the city for allowing a whacked out nutjob, mentally insane individual into a no barrier or low barrier housing, which means you can live in housing, you can qualify for housing without being clean, without being sober, and without any kind of mental check? That's what you've got going, because there are so many people that have been dumped out of mental institutions because we closed them all down. And that was a bipartisan thing. That was truly a bipartisan thing, one form or another. We kind of just said as a society, we're not doing the mental institutions anymore because, some shenanigans happened there, and we can't have that. Now you've got the shenanigans happening in apartment complexes in a place like Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. I mean, this is an easy call. This is an easy call. It's why no or low barrier housing does not work, because you're taking on massive amounts of liability from the standpoint of, okay, you're Section 8 housing, we'll take you. Then you basically have to take everybody. And the government says, the guy's a nut job, but he needs housing because, housing first. Get people into housing, and then we'll get them sober, and then we'll get them back into the real world. That never happens. This kind of stuff does happen. Lights his own complex on fire. First, he makes sure that he gets a good skid mark down the middle of his unit with gasoline. And then he has an imaginary fight with his girlfriend or someone. And then he tosses a Molotov cocktail into the apartment, and then people are leaping from the building. People should sue the city of Portland for the liability that's been created. But the problem is, you start that, you are going to have cities brought to their knees, because we've got lunatics living all over. And every single time they try and take them out of their encampments and put them into housing, liability. This is what happens. So today's story, it's the poster child for why you've number one, got to get people into detox and then treatment. Or if they are mentally not well, you need to get them into a facility that can actually take care of them and help them, whatever that means. We don't have enough facilities. We don't have the desire. We don't have enough money, yada, 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 yada. And these kind of stories, expect more to happen. This guy was 40 years old. He looked like he was 50, didn't he? And he just had those darty eyes. He had those meth eyes, just the drugged out eyes. And he's whacked. He's whacked in the head. He just is. He's whacked in the head. So many of these times, so many of these stories, people try and tell you, oh, he's not on drugs. And then eventually you come to the conclusion. That guy did a lot of drugs. And this is Portland, right? And before 6 a.m. on a Friday morning, the guy's doing shenanigans. And all these other folks have to deal with it. But the magic circle is they voted for elected officials who allow all of this to happen. And everybody just goes, keep Portland weird. It's okay. Portlandia, keep Portland weird. It's quirky. Well, it's quirky until your 82-year-old grandmother has to do Spider-Man off the second floor balcony and then ends up with a bunch of burns and broken bones and vertebrae. 82, you don't heal as quickly as you do when you're 22 or 40, right? Wacky story, just an absolute nut job of a story, but not uncommon. That's the bottom line here. This is not uncommon. And if you sort through news stories, you will come up with this time and time and time again. So when you hear housing first, think to yourself, what could possibly go wrong? You just heard it. You just heard it. Love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell, hit the like button if you like this video. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining. Bye for now.